It was one of those rare spring afternoons when everything felt just a little quieter, a little slower. The sky hung low with a gentle overcast, the kind that makes you want to curl up with a good book and a warm drink. My husband, Daniel, had left earlier that morning on a business trip to Chicago. He'd be gone for 3 days, maybe 4, depending on how the client meetings played out. It wasn't the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. Daniel's job always kept him traveling, and I'd long grown used to it. What I hadn't expected was how different this time would be. Our son, Tyler, had just turned 19. He was in college but still living at home for the time being, commuting to save on rent and stay close to us, or maybe just close to his comfort zone. Tyler was quiet, responsible, and polite. The kind of young man who kept to himself, did his work, and never caused much fuss. But there was something about him lately, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. That afternoon, as I folded laundry in the den, I heard the unmistakable sound of the front door creaking open. I looked up as Tyler stepped in, his backpack slung over one shoulder, his hair slightly tousled, and his face unusually flushed. "Hey, Mom," he said, dropping his bag by the door. "Dad already left?" "Yeah," I said. "Caught the early flight. You hungry?" He paused. "A little. You want to make some grilled cheese?" "Sure," I smiled, happy for the rare opportunity to spend some time alone with him. We hadn't really talked in a while. Not deeply, anyway. As we moved into the kitchen, I prepared the sandwiches while he pulled out the plates and glasses. We sat down at the small kitchen table, the one with paint chips and years of memories in every scratch. "So," I began casually, "how's school?" He nodded, chewing thoughtfully. "It's okay. Classes are fine. A little overwhelming sometimes, but manageable." I could tell there was more. I watched him, the way his eyes kept flicking down to his plate, his shoulders slightly hunched. I waited. "Mom," he said after a long pause, "can I ask you something kind of personal?" I blinked. "Of course. You can ask me anything." He hesitated. "It's just, you've always been someone I could trust. I mean, I know we don't talk all the time, but I feel like I need to tell someone stuff, you know? And with Dad gone, my heart clenched a little. I reached across the table and gently touched his hand. "You can tell me anything, Tyler. I promise." He took a breath. "Okay. So, there's this girl." A small smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. "Ah, a girl." "Yeah. Her name's Megan. We met in English Lit. She's really smart. And funny. And not afraid to speak her mind. She's also kind of intense." I leaned in, encouraging him with a nod. "I've never really felt this way about someone before," he admitted. "But I don't think she sees me the same way. I think I'm more of a safe guy to her. A friend." "Oh, sweetheart." I squeezed his hand. "That doesn't mean it's always going to be like that. Sometimes people just take longer to realize what's right in front of them." He gave a small, almost embarrassed laugh. "You always say stuff like that." "Because it's true," I said. "Tell me more." And he did. He opened up about Megan, about the time she asked him to help with a group project and ended up staying over for dinner. How she told him she admired his stability. How she leaned on him when her last relationship ended but then moved on again while he stayed stuck in place, quietly waiting. "I guess I just don't know if I'm meant to be that guy for anyone," he said finally, his voice low. "Tyler, you're the kind of man any girl would be lucky to have," I said. "You're thoughtful, grounded, kind. The right one will see that. And when she does, she won't let you go." He looked at me then, really looked. "How do you always know what to say?" I smiled. "Because I've been there too. More than once." He leaned back, his eyes softening. "Can I tell you something else? Something I've never told anyone." I nodded, sensing the shift in the room. "I've always felt different. Not in a bad way, but just like I'm kind of outside looking in. Even with Dad. I know he means well, but sometimes I feel like he doesn't really get me. Because you're sensitive. And that's not a weakness. It's a strength, Tyler. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. He was silent a long moment. Sometimes I wonder if he wishes I were more like him. More into sports. More direct. Less quiet. I walked around the table and wrapped my arms around him. Tyler, your father loves you exactly as you are. He just doesn't always know how to show it. His voice was muffled against my shoulder. I just don't want to disappoint either of you. You never could, I whispered. We stayed like that for a while. Just mother and son, wrapped in a quiet moment of understanding that had been long overdue. The kind of moment that doesn't come often, but when it does, it changes everything. Over the next few days, Tyler kept opening up. At night, we'd sit on the back porch, listening to crickets and sipping tea while he shared little pieces of his world. He told me about his fears of failure, his dreams of becoming a writer, the stories he was secretly working on but too shy to share. He even let me read one of them. It was beautiful. Raw, emotional, full of heart. This is amazing, I told him. You have a real voice. You really think so? I know so. And then came the story that surprised me most. One night, as we were wrapping up another long conversation, he turned to me and said, "There's something else." I waited. I've always been curious about our family. Like, how you and Dad really met. I mean, you've told me the basics, but there's something about your story that feels complicated. I gave a small laugh. You're not wrong. He tilted his head. Wanna tell me the real version? And so I did. I told him about how I met Daniel when I was working at a publishing firm, how he was charismatic and confident, how he swept me off my feet, but also how difficult our early years were. How we had our share of struggles and almost didn't make it more than once. But we fought for it, rebuilt what we'd almost lost. And how having him, Tyler, changed everything. You were the one thing that made us better, I said. You grounded us. His eyes glistened slightly, and he looked down at his hands. You really mean that? With all my heart. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized how little we truly know about someone until we listen, really listen. Tyler had been growing, evolving, and wrestling with things all on his own. And I had almost missed it because I hadn't asked. But now that I had, I would never stop. When Daniel came home 3 days later, things had shifted. At dinner, Tyler was more confident. He spoke more, smiled more, and even teased his father about his tie being crooked. Daniel raised an eyebrow, clearly surprised but also proud. Later, after dinner, Daniel pulled me aside. He's different. Happier. Did something happen while I was gone? I smiled. We just talked. A lot. Daniel gave me a knowing look. Thank you for being that person for him. He needed it. We both did. Tyler went on to share his writing publicly, getting praise from his professors and even winning a campus award. Megan remained a friend, but he eventually met someone new. Emily, a fellow writer who challenged and encouraged him in all the right ways.